right, Pop.
All right.
All right.
Yeah,
Ron Blank in the
go.
studio today. Just a little intro. So my dad, Ron, worked in management for some big companies, AT&T and Lucent, for 30 years.
Yep, 32 years.
32 years. I convinced him in 2000, maybe
Yep.
2000, to retire early. He took a package,
Yep.
got a nice retirement package, and I convinced him to help me do his idea.
2001.
2001.
Yep.
Okay. So when I was a kid, I guess we'll start here.
All right.
When I was a kid, I asked you one time, I said, what would you do if you could do anything in the world? And what did you say to me?
Rehab houses.
Fix up old houses. Well, first you said when you were my age, you would rent boats in Florida.
Yeah, right. That's,
But you're more real. We were in Chicago, the outskirts of Chicago. So you said I would fix up old houses.
Yeah. So
naively, I did that with you, huh?
yeah, we did. We sure did.
We did a little bit of it, huh?
We did a lot of it.
We did a lot of it. So it starts out. I come out of college. I call you one day. I'm in college, and I say, I think I want to go to law school. And you tell me, okay, bud, that's on you, though.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You're like, look, I got your undergrad, but you got law school.
That's right.
So you said, I got law school, and I thought, I can't be poor anymore. I can't. I was so tired of eating, the $5 sub was all I could get because I couldn't get the foot long. So I was tired of that. I was tired of being broke.
You said that was enough. That was enough.
I wanted to make some money. So I graduated from Illinois with a degree in economics, and I moved back home with you and Mom. And all we would ever do was go look at real estate. You guys were obsessed. Always looking at new homes, always talking about real estate. It was like your thing. You guys loved it.
That's right.
You loved it. You do it now still.
We do. Yeah, we do. Yes.
Yeah. And you basically gave me the idea to buy a fixer-upper and live in it, right?
Right.
So we did that. I was looking around. I don't know if you remember. We went out to Wheaton.
Oh, yeah, I know.
We looked at that house that was the smoker lady house. There's smoke all over the walls.
You tried to buy it.
We tried to buy it. Somebody beat us because they had a cash offer. And I was like, who's got $150,000 of cash? This is ridiculous, right?
You said we're never going to get one.
Yes. Maybe a little dramatic. Just
It felt like it. 'Cause we
looked.
We looked at several houses.
We looked at a lot.
And couldn't get it.
We couldn't get it.
Yeah.
And then I think, did you call me on the one we bought in Geneva?
Yeah. Well, it was Mom's client.
So Mom's client says,
She could get. She knew somebody that had a house for sale.
so you said, go buy this house. I drove by it. It was on the highway. It was on 38 in Geneva.
Yeah.
It was a one-bedroom house.
Right.
And we looked at it, and you were like, buy it. I remember you just walked in, you're like, yeah, this is it.
Well, it was better than anything else we'd seen. We could never fix up a house that good that we had to look at. It was very nice.
You just didn't want to commute to Wheaton.
Yeah,
I mean, this
right.
was like
That's
in your
true.
backyard.
That's true.
This was like a block from your house.
That's right. It's perfect. Yeah.
It was about 2 blocks from your house,
Yes,
maybe.
Right. That's right.
So you didn't. You were going to have to do the heavy lifting, helping me fix this thing, right?
We did it together.
We did, yeah. So we buy this house. I buy this house, and you retired, and I'm like, perfect timing.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Perfect timing. So you come over, and what did we do on that first house?
Well, the big thing was change the garage into a bedroom. I mean, that was a big
Take
thing.
a one-bedroom, turn it. They do that in Florida here all the time. That's
Yeah.
like the thing. You steal the garage, you get more square footage, right?
Yeah, we did that. We had a good plan. We had a good plan. But the big thing was we found out that the garage wasn't the same level as the house. We didn't know that.
And when did we find that out?
When we started knocking down the wall, I found, wait a minute.
Cutting the hole.
It doesn't work.
So I'm standing on the inside of the house,
Yeah.
and I'm knocking, and he's like, no, knock at the top. And
Yeah,
I'm
right. And
knocking at the top, and it's about at his belly button
Right.
on the other side. So we cut this hole in my house. We buy this house. We cut this hole in this house. And I'm looking at my dad's waist as he stands on the other side. I'm like, what did we do?
I know.
So we had to rig that thing something good to make it a passable.
We got about 6 foot doorway.
I'm 6'4", so I had to kind of glide in.
Right. We hope to tell to the old lady it's fine.
Yeah. We sold it to a 5'3" old lady.
Right.
Yeah, we did. So I lived in that house. Took me about. We turned this garage into a bedroom. You and I did the work. We framed the floor, framed the windows, did it, brought the plans of the city, all that stuff.
Put it in the floor, yeah.
Put it in the floor, laid the hardwood floor, did all that, painted it multiple different times, all different colors, all sorts of. I said I'm going to do the one room yellow and the other room green.
Because your yellow was actually green.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were
colorblind.
Colorblind.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. My plan, it was kind of backwards. Anyway, so we sold that house, and I made more money on that house than I made working the entire year.
Oh yeah.
So I'm in banking, right? And I'm probably making like about $40,000 a year after taxes. You're probably taking home 28 or 30, and I made roughly that same amount, roughly.
Right.
Buying, fixing, and renovating that home.
Right.
I had a shoulder surgery while we were there. So the last couple, I was painting left-handed the whole time. And I remember my arm was in a sling from the surgery, and I went to look at another house. I was looking at an open house, another house came up, like neighborhood realtor brings it out to us, and that's the house in St. Charles I bought.
Yes, right.
And before I had the money to buy it, I got the crazy idea to take a home equity loan on the first house that we had fixed up, borrow the money, and buy the second house.
Yep.
So that's how I started. That was like year number, first year did 1, second year did 2, third year did 5, then did 10, then we just, then we went nuts. And a lot of that was a function of...
Which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, you weren't really...
I was thinking little by little.
You're thinking little by little. I wasn't thinking so little.
Young guy.
Yeah, so I definitely had a different idea than you did. Mm-hmm. So you told me the one day, one of the houses we had in DeKalb, you came home, you said, well, the inspector was out there, and he said he had 50 rental properties. Remember that guy?
Yeah,
he went out to 8th Street.
No, he's a great guy.
Yeah, so he told you he had 50 rentals, and you told me about this guy and how he was kind of quasi-retired.
Oh yeah,
and that sparked something in me.
Right.
I was like, well, I could do this. I could have 50 of these. I could have 100 of these. I could do this, right?
Yep, you did.
And so we did. And so we started. I formed a company after the first couple of years, kind of hamming and egging it, and I got in touch with a banker. And that banker went to my same university.
Yep.
So and we played golf. So he liked me.
Yep.
And thankfully, so I had really two power things. I had you in construction. You knew I remember as a kid, you're building the basement walls and your framing, and I'm like, well, how do you know how to do this? And you're like, what? I mean, you just you'd take the hood of the car up and start looking at stuff and fixing stuff, and I'm like, what is going on here? That looks like Chinese to me. Hieroglyphics. I can't make sense of that. But you had this like ability to kind of like look at more complicated things and break them down. Is that like your engineering background, or what makes you able to do that stuff?
I know I like it.
You're into it.
Yeah. Well, I always liked it. Yeah. Figuring out what's going on.
I don't like that stuff at all. Mm-hmm. That's not my forte. I have a different skill set than that.
I like to solve things.
Solving problems? Yeah. So we use your problem solving on the construction, and then we use this guy's money.
Right.
So I borrowed a whole bunch of money, and so what happened one day was Patrick came to my house in St. Charles. He's like, you have a really big house, and you have like kind of silly cars. What do you do? And I told him I was buying and selling, fixing up houses nights and weekends, and it really made me more money than my job made. And we had a system. I would buy them, you'd fix them, we'd either sell them or refinance them and rent them and all this kind of stuff. And it was really working. And we were in a booming market, and rates
Right.
Market was 2000 to 2005, so the market was ripping up. Right. Interest rates were dropping. Post 9/11, the Fed cut rates to nothing. Mm-hmm. And that was and I'd buy a little $75,000 house and it'd be worth $150.
Right,
and I was
right.
This is easy.
Right. It was.
Worked in your favor. It's pretty easy.
For a little while.
It goes the other way and you don't feel so smart.
Right.
So so Patrick said, can I do one? And that really sparked something in me. I thought, yeah, I can't do these all myself. I could sell them to my buddies. Yep. So a lot of my college buddies and friends of friends wanted to do it too because they saw it was working for me. I was making money. And then I just thought, well, if we hired some more guys, you could not have to swing the hammer yourself or you and two guys, but we could like get a crew together. And I started forming this idea, and the idea came to me that like, we should buy a lot of these. We should consume a lot of these. So I called it mass consumption.
Yep, that's right.
And so I wanted to buy a lot of foreclosures, and I knew the wave was coming, and we timed that in the beginning kind of perfectly. So one of the things I said was I had two really big assets that I didn't really understand the value of the assets at the time, and that was you in construction and my banker in lending. And I was able to kind of put those two things together and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah.
What were some of your favorite stories or parts from back in the day when we were doing that? Because we started out doing 1, then 2, then 5, and then, we had some pretty big years there.
Well, yeah, I guess part of it was you talking to your buddies, and they said, your college buddies, and they said, well, Jess can do it, we can do it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So I got all these college buddies going.
Yep.
And then, so it was sort of a friends and family operation.
Yep.
And another thing, I thought we'd just do a little by little and grow. And you being young, you're like, well, sky's the limit, let's go for it. And so first I buy 1 and 2, and all of a sudden you're buying 3 and 4 at a time. I said, whoa, this is crazy. And he said, but I said, you buy them and I'll fix them up.
Yep.
And then
that was the deal.
Yep. And then you said, well, whatever I buy, just do whatever I buy, you fix up. And so we communicated that. So I try to always fix up everything you buy. And usually we always agreed on your purchases.
Yeah, the times you saved my butt were the times that I was probably, and now I look back and I think, being 20, 20, and 22, 25, 28, I was thinking you have to hammer down and you have to go so big and so hard. And the biggest lesson I think I've taken from all of this is now with trend, and we talk about this business like we talk about that business all the time. I'm always asking your advice. If I could do, I've told you this 100 times, if I did do mass consumption over again, I'd put Heather in the office doing the accounting, me doing the deal structure, you in construction, and maybe Beth in the field, and that's it.
Right.
I'd have had a leaner office because I had 6, 7 guys in the office, running around doing all sorts of crazy stuff, $500,000 in overhead or more. And then we had so many people in the field, and you're running. I mean, what do you think was our biggest year?
Well, I was about 7.
2007, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
How many houses do you think we did then?
Well, there was, between your stuff and your buddy's stuff, I did about 100.
Yeah, we did 100 in 1 year.
1 year.
So that was bought, fixed, and sold, or bought, fixed, and leased, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means you're doing about 8 houses a month, about 2 houses a week.
Right, because we had about 22 workers doing them. And so it was a lot. And so anyway, that was
a big year.
That was a big year.
So every week I'm bringing you 2 new houses to start.
Right. Well, you were buying them. And like I say, we agreed on most of the houses you bought.
Well, I tried to. The times we didn't agree, I was wrong.
Right. Because I was out there seeing them. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah.
Not that one, bud.
But 99% of them, we all agreed.
Yeah.
And so it worked out good.
What do you think? What do you think was your favorite house we ever did, as far as the experience or the finished product? Which one was your favorite?
Probably the first one. The first one, because
like that one?
Turned out so good. It turned out so good right off the bat.
Yeah, it was a home run.
It's like Bobby. You got your first deal right. Like, wow, this is good.
Yeah.
And so that was, and all of them, the ones in DeKalb were good. And I liked the ones in better areas. DeKalb was okay.
Yeah.
St. Charles, Geneva.
We didn't do that many in DeKalb, St. Charles, and Geneva.
I know.
You know where we did most of that stuff.
I know, but the nicer areas like St. Charles and
well,
Naperville.
Where we made all the money, though, was we made all the money in Elgin and Aurora.
Yes.
I mean, I had to kind of take you there kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
You didn't want to go there.
Right.
But I said, look, if we're going to do Geneva and St. Charles, we're going to do 5 houses in our career. I said, if we go to Aurora and we go to Elgin. So on that one, I got to say, you were right on pretty much everything, but I was right about Aurora.
I know. You know how to buy the houses. You know how to buy them.
I knew how to buy them.
And so that worked out good. And I agree. We had a lot of business that way, and more, I learned a lot. You were, especially over on the east side of Aurora, you'd be like, hey, this is my great-grandfather's house, or this is the house I was born in. Well, that's another thing is you bought in the neighborhood where I grew up.
Yeah, I brought you back to your old neighborhood.
Yeah, I did a lot of houses there. That was sort of interesting. Yeah. Because outside my first house, I could see this house, and I rehabbed it.
That's amazing.
That one.
Yeah.
So that
was over on like Evans, right?
Evans Avenue, yeah. The house across the street from my window when I was a kid. Yeah. You got to rehab that house and other houses in an area. So that was sort of fun. Yeah. Go back to my own neighborhood. That was also fun. Yeah. It was all sort of fun because you had different challenges in different areas. But I liked all of them together.
I'll tell you, I look back at those days, having all those guys in the office, having you in the field. I mean, there's never been more fun than that, right?
Yeah.
We never had more fun than
it was fun.
the cast of characters.
Oh,
and,
yeah,
I mean,
no. Lots of memories. Lots and lots of memories.
Yeah.
Once in a while, I'd be at night, and all of a sudden, want to come back that I hadn't thought about for years, So
every once in a while, one of my favorite jokes is Bruce writes a note in the office, and Brian reads it, and he goes, he was reading this note, and he goes, it says here to call Frank Ronalso. Who's Frank Ronalso? And everybody in the office starts dying laughing. Like, it says call Frank Ron also.
Call me also.
So now the story is now we call you Frank Ronalso.
I know.
So when you were in the hospital,
Yep.
a few years back, thankfully, not all clear now.
Right.
But when you were in the hospital a few years back, I wrote on the board, my name is.
It was for a stroke. I couldn't remember my own name, and he was on the board. I'm trying to remember my own name. I couldn't remember it. And it was Frank, and the nurse said, "I thought your name was Ron."
Yeah, it was great.
That's what you need. That's what you need is a little humor when you're trying to recover.
Yeah. So I pulled out some old mass consumption jokes for you. My name is Frank. Ron also.
That worked out great.
Thought your name was Ron.
That's what you need. That's what you need is some humor when you're trying to recover. So
that's right.
That helps.
So you've recovered amazingly.
Yes.
That's been good.
Very thankful. Yes.
And I think that in life, in business, I always want the magic pill, right? I always want something to be easy and some new formula that makes things perfect. And I think the one thing I picked up, and I think that's kind of like a mom thing, and I think from you I picked up, none of it's easy, right? Like the first house you talk about with the door thing, to not working and all that. It was like an old house. It was like built in like the 1920s, and there was this piece of wood that we just could not get out of the jam. And I remember you'd bang on it for, I don't know, 40 minutes, and then I'd bang on it for 40 minutes.
I know.
It must have taken us 2.5 hours to get this thing out of there.
I know.
And to this day, you mounted it on a piece of wood, a plaque. I still have it at my house.
Yeah, I saw
and
it.
And you put the address in.
I saw it today.
Yeah. So you came over today.
Because we need that whole 6 feet. We tried.
Couldn't get that last 2 inches to get it out of there.
2 inches out of there.
And it was petrified. It was like rock.
Yeah, it was petrified, yeah.
It was petrified. We could not get it out of there. But I remember that, and I keep that with me. Of all the things that I've gotten from you over the years, I keep that with me because I don't care if it's trend. I don't care if it's flipping houses. I don't care if it's a marriage, a friendship, a relationship with anybody. It's always harder than you think it's going to be.
Yes, right.
And that, to me, has stuck with me. And I keep that as a little memento of everything I do, it's going to be harder than you thought.
And you see that when you watch television shows.
Yes.
Wait a minute. What happened here?
Yes.
This is worse than I thought.
Every time.
We learned that in rehabbing.
We learned that in rehabbing every single time. And one of the things I think I also learned from you over the years was there are these counterintuitive things that happen. And you and I were big on this back in those days. There were bigger companies with more money. You know, there's mega millionaire guys found out what we were doing. Well, I made this blunder as a dummy. I walked into this big house in St. Charles, and I had the money to buy it. And the builder was looking at me like, why is this young guy looking at buying this house? Pretty expensive house. And I kind of told them too much about my business, and they started showing up at our auction. Right?
Yep.
And now even one of my old employees works for it. So, I mean, I kind of shot myself in the foot a little bit.
Right.
But
Gave him a good idea.
But they did it a little bit different than we did. You know, like I gravitated towards these low-end houses because to me, whether it's trend, mass consumption, any business, I'm always thinking about what's my return on time and what's my return on effort, what's my return on capital.
Right.
And I'm not in it for the ego. So these guys would come in with their, $20 million, $30 million, and we had maybe like $3 or $4 million. And we'd do the same volume of homes, but we would just do the cheaper homes.
Yep.
So we'd buy the houses that we could pick up for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on the east side of Aurora in these like not really sexy areas, and they'd be doing the $200,000 house, which we did plenty of those too, or the $500,000 house, or the $800,000 house. And what I found was after doing them, ask me how I know, there was no more profit in the high end than the low, and in fact, counterintuitively, there was more profit in the low end. We would go buy a $25,000 house, paint it, clean it out, and sell it for $100 and make $30,000 or $40,000. And these guys would be pumping $400,000 into a house, another 100 into construction. They'd make the same 30 grand.
In a longer time.
Longer time. And we're popcorn in a pan. Boom, boom, boom. Or just dumping them to buddies. Okay, I'm mucking up $5,000-$10,000. You take it.
Yeah.
And that worked really, really well for us.
They made money also, yeah.
Absolutely. They made money also. Now, obviously, talk to me more about that counterintuitive thing, because even now with trend, it's a lot of real estate, and we come from an investment standpoint. We don't come from a brokers or agents. We really got into this from, we're investors, we're builders, we're rehabbers. And so we like it, but we do it for money, right? We're not doing this for ego. There's some people who are like, they want to have their face on a sign, and they want, Facebook likes, and they're all into like all this jazz that you and I are just, you're probably the most stoic person I've ever met in life. And I didn't know that was the character trait that I would describe you as when I was young. But as an adult, where did you come up with this? Like, unchangeable, steady, calm in the face of the unnerving. Where did you build that from? Where did you get that?
Christianity, I guess.
Yeah? All faith-based?
Faith. I think so.
It's amazing, the steadiness and not getting erratic. Because, your spouse is not as stoic as you are.
Well, we complement each other.
There you go. She excites you a little bit and you keep her calm?
Yeah, so it works out.
Yeah, kind of like our business relationship was. I was a little bit spazzy. You were pretty steady.
Well, you were younger and I was...
Yeah, more seasoned.
More seasoned, I guess.
Yeah. Well, very impressive. With regard to all the stuff, some of the counterintuitive stuff that we've thought, tell me some more things that you think, like you used to say when I was a kid, people who think they're cool.
You see what I mean now, right?
I know, yes.
Yeah.
People who act like they're the hot shit, the cool people, whatever. Not that cool, right? Like people who think they're fancy, maybe not so fancy. That was your thing you'd always say, and man, that came true.
Well, I guess from what you're saying, you have to find your niche in real estate and your business. You have to find your niche, and it probably isn't exactly what other people are doing. Because, like you say, with our houses, everybody wanted those $300,000 houses because they're nice, and we found something different that nobody wanted. Nobody wanted those then.
That's right.
And so
less demand.
Yeah, and so nobody else wanted it, so we got them all.
Almost no demand.
Yeah. So,
if you look at it, we would buy 2 of those a week.
Yeah, I know. And it's like nobody else wanted them, so we took them and did great with them.
Yep.
And so we learned as we went along. We learned it.
Well, I think another counterintuitive thing that you wouldn't. I picked the low end. I definitely was instrumental in picking the low end, and you were instrumental in saying less construction. The construction.
Yes.
You've never met a contractor in your life who's saying, no, let's not do that. Every contractor you meet, let's rip the wall out and blow the ceiling out and rip this apart. That's been my problem since you retired. I flipped a little bit here in Florida. Nothing like we did there. We did. I don't know how many homes do you think we did up there.
Up there?
Yeah.
We did 400 and some, right?
Easy.
Yeah.
And if you count the buy and the sell, it's the better part of 1,000 transactions.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah, we had about 450. I'm sure that was about 11 to 12 year period.
Amazing. Down here, I've maybe done only 40 or 50 houses and nowhere near the success because I didn't have that stoic general contractor who's trying to get you to not spend money.
Well, we were in the same team.
Yeah, of course.
We were on the same team where they're trying to get you and you're trying to get
right.
You want to get cheap and he wants to buy more.
That's right. Well, that's the counterintuitive problem with contractors here, but also even people who are on your team sometimes. Let's rip the cabinets out and put some granite in or whatever, and you're going, let's not do that. Like, why did you never wanted to do invasive stuff? And I think that's why we were so profitable is because I'd be like, well, let's put a new kitchen in. And you're like, let's paint the cabinets. That's why we were profitable.
Yeah, because we weren't in Geneva or St. Charles, and our market was a little different. We only do what you have to do to make the money that we need to make for the business. We need to make money for the business.
Yeah.
So we couldn't overinvest. Because I see on television a lot of times, they overinvest.
Always.
And they have a hard time selling.
Always.
Whereas we had to invest as much as it takes and no more because you went to the upswing and the downswing, and you were able to sell every house.
Yep.
When people thought houses weren't going to sell.
Yep.
Well, we didn't put so much into it, so you could sell it.
Yep. And that margin, it's not, when I look back at all the numbers, our average flip over all those years was probably net to the company maybe only about an $18,000 profit. And that means you got to buy it, fix it, and sell it.
Yeah.
Take 6 months. That's not that's not the TV shows you see. That's not, well, we bought it for $1 million, we put $1 million in, and we sold it for, it's not that, right? We did a high volume, little bit lower profit margin, but we did enough of it that it was lucrative.
Right, exactly. So when you're doing that many a month, you do quite a few a month, it adds up.
It adds up quickly.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that the counterintuitive thing has really been surprising to me in what I purchased, you not wanting to do invasive construction. That was shocking.
We did some. We did
some.
We did quite.
But you were always pushing less.
Right.
Less is more.
Right.
And now with Trend, I've read a couple books that I think you could have authored. And a couple of them, it's really about doing less better. And one of my favorite books is this book called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. Mm-hmm. And this guy is all about doing less in life, doing less. And I think personally, you really did two things, maybe three, consistently, always, never varied, and never brought anything else into the picture. And one, I think, was you're a great family guy, great dad, obviously very focused on the family. You weren't out carousing with your buddies when we were little kids. You didn't do that. So you're very focused on your family. Number two is your career. You were steady Eddie on that career, which is why to this day they're still paying you. You get a nice pension. Not bad, right?
Sure.
So you nailed that pension, which is hard because these big companies are falling around you, and you nailed that. And then the third thing was like always had us in church, always your faith, and things like that. So talk to me a little bit about, were you consciously so minimally focused on these things? Were you saying like no distractions, or that's just who you are?
That's who I am.
That's just who you are. You're just wired that way. Because you weren't mixed up in this and that and then this idea and that idea. You were steady Eddie, those three things always. That's just you.
Right.
So tell me about when these big businesses are falling apart. You saw AT&T, Ma Bell, AT&T, Lucent. One of the reasons you would just pound me in the face about less is from those companies. Tell me about some of that.
Well, I guess part of it was a big company, and a lot of times you couldn't get anything done. We wanted a small thing done, but we couldn't get anything done because they had to go to New Jersey to see if somebody would like it. Nobody's ever going to like it. Nobody's ever going to do anything because it's too far away.
You couldn't get things rubber stamped.
No.
Too much red tape.
You can't get anything approved because it's like bureaucracy.
Yeah.
When you get a big company, you get bureaucracy. You just have to keep your own little world, and your manager, that's about as far as you can go.
Yeah.
I think we had 17 different management levels.
That's too much.
In the company.
Yeah.
And each one trying to compete with each other and trying to belittle each other. I'm this level, you're that level. You're not going to talk to me. I don't want to do anything that you want. I'm better. And so there's lots of it's like the government.
Yeah. That's why you hate the government. That's why you hate big government.
Well, yeah. It's like the conservatives always say, I'm here from the government to help you. You don't want help from the government,
right?
And so that's part of why I say you got to do it yourself.
That's one of the reasons why I'm like such a libertarian, and it's just in my DNA because it was just in your DNA, and you downloaded that to me.
Right.
That's why I keep Trend the size it is.
Yes.
We've talked about this many times.
Right.
Like, do I scale it? Do I do this? And you're adamant that big government, big companies, and growth is not the answer.
Well, look at Sears fell apart, Ma Bell fell apart, everything that
Lucent
fell apart.
Huge companies blowing up, billion-dollar companies left and right, falling apart.
GE's has a lot of trouble.
GE's in trouble.
A lot of companies. You're too big and too bureaucratic, and you gotta get back to your own your small business, what you're good at, your core business.
Core competencies.
Stay in the core business. I think you'd be better off. Yeah.
I like that. And, I hired a new agent, and they showed me a text from a bigger company locally, and they said, well, look at this sold volume of us versus them and blah, blah, blah. And I go, I'm not in that business.
It's okay.
It is okay. I'm not in the business of, well, we sold more than you, because that's just ego talking, right? We know big local companies that have fancy offices, and I have agents who come from those companies and say that market center is losing money. They have a bigger office, they have more staff, they have more agents, and they lose money. Just like buying those bigger houses, it looks sexy, right? Oh, you're flipping $1 million home.
Right.
You're so fancy, right?
Right.
I'm over here in Aurora buying a house, painting it, and selling it, banking a fat check very easily,
Right.
not a lot of effort, not real sexy, but real profitable.
Well,
you really have instilled that in me. Like, to be counterintuitive, countercultural. The culture is show off on Facebook, show off on Instagram, brag about your money. And you kind of had, there's two schools of thoughts, I think, financially. And originally I started out with that rich dad, poor dad, like borrow a bunch of money and get other people to work for you and this kind of stuff. And you have more that millionaire next door mindset, which is like, sure, go make a lot, but don't spend it.
Right.
Much different
Well,
approach.
you got that down pat. You've got it.
It took me a decade and a half, but I got it now.
You got it. Yeah.
But it's one of those counterintuitive, right?
We all learn our lessons in life. You're learning your lessons young, just like I say in economics. Get into business, learn fast. You're gonna, if you go broke, you can do it again. Do another business again.
Yeah.
You learn from what you've experienced, and you've experienced a lot.
Yeah. And so one of the things I always tell the story is that the big years where we did the 100 houses, after we let a lot of people go and shrunk, and it was you and a couple of guys in the field, me and no office in my basement, I made more money.
Yes.
I made $100,000 more cutting the overhead and not having the ego of, okay, we did 100 homes. There was another year that we did like 35 or 25. It was 28 or something, a very, very contracted version, and we made more money.
Yeah. Right.
And so these counterintuitive things are kind of what I try to do with this business and kind of what I try to do in life now. And our host, he's of that minimalist mindset as well. Why are you trying to ball out? Why are you trying to show off? That young guys doing that, and then senior guys showing me that. Like, when you're like an 80s baby, like I was, like late 70s baby, it was like more is better. That was like the philosophy that we kind of went with. And between you and the millennials aren't thinking more is better. They're much more about quality of life.
That's right. Yeah.
These guys are much more about quality of life.
Yes.
They're much more about experiences, not having showy shit.
Right.
That's worthless. Yeah, but people my age, we were really into that.
I know.
The McMansions.
I
I got a
know. Yeah,
McMansion.
exactly.
I got a stupid car.
Yeah.
Nobody did more stuff than that than I did. And having you guys kind of on the collars has really changed my focus and keep me doing the essential things, hiring and training. And going from 25 to 100 homes sounds like, oh wow, they must be making so much money.
Right.
No more profit.
Right.
More ego, more headaches, more nightmares, more problems.
Right.
But then you come into things like, here's your dad calling. It's my favorite. So then you come into things like one of the examples. You told me a story about a house in Aurora where there was like no water to it, and you had to write a letter.
Oh yeah.
Tell me this one.
Well, when we came up to it, there was plumbing coming out of the ground. That you see that it was from a well.
Yeah. So it was previously on a well.
And the well was shot. Gone,
The well was gone.
Gone. So I'm saying this is going to be a little tricky. and so anyway, of all things, it was in the county. It wasn't really in the city. Of all things, I didn't know that, but it was in the county. It really wasn't in the city. So in order to hook up the city water, you have to get a permit.
Yep.
And it's on the other side of the road.
Yep.
And so we had to go underneath the road, and you had to have somebody there, a contractor, that could fix the road.
Wow.
He had to be there, and I had to submit plans to the city to even get into Aurora to get the water.
Wow.
So I had to go down to the city and go before the board and say, we're gonna get in the city and submit a plan, and so they tell, well, you got to do this, you got to do that, and also you have to, everybody that you're already paying taxes to, all the agents in the county you're paying taxes to, you have to get their permission. From the fire, the library.
Oh God.
There was like 20 of them. You had to send out
So all
letters.
these different departments.
Yeah, 20 different departments.
They have to
allow us to leave the county to get into Aurora.
Why did you let me buy that house?
Yeah, I know. I knew there was something wrong with that house. And it's just in a regular lot, and they said you have to get the EPA. You have to. You're not endangering any species. You're not endangering any wildlife.
Any animals?
Any animals.
Wow.
There's no animals. There's no animals. But you had to go to the government to fill in the well. That's what you had to do.
Okay.
In order to fill in the well, you had to get
the EPA to sign off.
To sign that you aren't endangering any animals by filling in that well. So you had to go to the government. It all came back, okay, fine. But I didn't know what they were going to say. And also, with all these departments, the fire department and the library department, every other department, they all said, okay. So then we got permission to go beneath the road and tie into the water, which is on the other side of the road. So it took a long time for that house.
Two things. One, I never heard that story till you told it.
Right.
Like a year ago.
Right.
And I was like, what are you talking about?
I know.
That.
I had to go before the city of Aurora. And they canceled it. They didn't have one. They had another, it didn't have it in September. They had it another month. And then you had to go up in there and submit it to them. And they, okay, we'll let you in.
But talk about being stoic, right? It's like, so you're going through all of that. You never even told me.
No, because actually, I didn't have time. You had me to.
You didn't have time.
I
just think you're so badass. You're not. Oh, it's no big deal. You just didn't have time.
You had me. I had 10 or 15 other projects.
That's too funny.
At that time.
Yeah. Going at a time.
Right, because, yeah.
That's amazing.
So.
Unbelievable. I thought that was a good story because one, I had never heard it.
Yeah.
Two, the fact that you pulled it off.
Al knew a guy who had the contract. A certain person had a contract that he could even fix the city streets.
Wow.
It was, he had to have lots of insurance and stuff like that.
Sure.
And he had to have a tractor out there or something.
So you got to have special licenses.
And he was there. He was there when they put
they did the boring or whatever.
Boring. He had to be there.
Yeah.
It cost you a lot of money to have him there.
Don't even remember.
I know.
That's the best part about this. I don't even remember it. There was so much money coming and going.
Right.
It was flowing through.
But,
So you bring up Al, and that probably brings me to one of my other favorite stories. One day, I'm at home with my ex-wife and kids at the time, and water stops working. I'm like, well, we're on a well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yes.
Water's off. What's the deal? So I call you up. I'm like, hey, well's dry. I mean, the house is 4 years old. Like, this shouldn't be happening. Mm-hmm. And you say, like you normally call a couple guys out, check it out, and just wanted to see what your thoughts were. And then you said, look, on this, you got to call Al. You bring up Al, so this reminds me.
Yeah.
So you tell me to call Al. I talked to Al. 3 different contractors come out.
Yeah. And
this is the truth of contractors, which is sad and brutal, but the truth. 3 different guys come out, and they all 3 say the same thing. You need to drill a new well.
Yes.
And they see the big house, and they see the stupid cars, and they go, we're going to get this sucker for some money. Because they're going to go drill a new well, and the bids came in between $30,000 and $35,000. And I'm like, I had the money, so it was not a big deal, but I didn't really want to spend it on drilling a new well on a 4-year-old home.
Right.
Like, how did this pass county permitting? Like, why would they allow a shallow well to be drilled? What's going on? And Al told me something I thought that was right in you guys' vein.
Yep.
He goes, I don't care if you have to get 20 contractors out there, find the 21st, because somebody will fix that well without drilling a new one.
Yep.
And sure enough, the 4th or 5th guy came out, pulled the pump out, said it's jammed with sediment, cleaned it out, stuck it back in the ground, charged me $1,500, And bada bing, bada boom, we never had a problem again.
Yeah.
So that's another warning, I think.
Yeah.
You're not one to get taken financially. You're not one to just throw big money around like, oh, you're always looking for...
Didn't have the big money to throw around.
Find a way, right?
Right.
No, so I thought that was always good. You were not invasive with the construction. You were very minimalistic with your approach to life, to construction, to business. And that's been very helpful over the years, especially with things like that. Saved me $30,000 right there.
Right, there you go.
Pretty impressive. Is there any other stories that come to mind as we're talking about the past and construction and this kind of stuff that rings true to you?
Well, just the fact that we were able to work together for all those years, and not many fathers get to work with their sons. So
yeah, that was good, right?
That was the best part of it. That was the best part of it. We had lots of experiences.
Yeah.
And nobody gets to work with their sons like we did. So that was the best part of it.
We had probably a decade there, huh? At least?
Yeah.
Maybe a little longer.
I'd say 11, 12 years.
Yeah, it was really good.
And
then I moved down here.
Yeah.
So in 2012, I moved, or late 11, I bought a house down here, and I kind of knew I was going to move. And 2012, I was down here, and you used to tell me, Florida's a great place to visit.
It is. Always loves it.
And then what happened?
Well, you moved here, and I moved here.
There's one detail between that. I moved here, my baby sister moved here, then you moved here. That's what happened, right? Yeah. I moved here, you moved here. That's a convenient way to say it. You missed a detail in there. My younger sister moved here, and we're there. It was so fun, though. Going forward, okay, so we've talked about all the past stuff, right? Going forward, give me advice, give the listeners advice in life, in business. Give me some advice going forward. I mean, you see the world, what's going on, crazy stuff, COVID stuff, riots, businesses is booming and busting. Like, give me some life advice.
Well, this too shall pass, right? I mean, right? These things will happen. I didn't expect any of this that we're going through now at all.
Right.
Never saw it, but I don't know. But tomorrow, something else will happen, and you learn from your mistakes, your early mistakes in business, and so now you do business. You just learn from your mistakes and keep the faith and
rock on.
Yep.
Well, that's what I like about what we're doing here now. This new company is I'm remembering all those things, and I'm seeing people brag. Well, I've got 100 agents. I've got 200 agents, and I'm like, you got 5 offices and 10 staff members, and I know how much that costs.
Yeah. Well,
there's what do they call it? Like diminishing marginal utility, right? That house number 27 you flip, you make, instead of 18 grand, you make 16 grand. But house number 99 that you flip in a year, or rehab or whatever, you ain't making close to 18 grand. You're making $1,000 or $2,000, because you have to have staff on top of staff on top of staff on top of managers on top of painters and then it becomes inefficient, right? Inefficiencies of scale.
Yes.
And with our little boutique thing, there's a lot bigger, but there's not necessarily better. And I think I picked that up from you. You'd always used to say, making a decision at Lucent was like turning the Titanic. And you'd say, no, look, you're lean, you're small, you're nimble, you got 5 guys, turn, switch, change, do this, right?
You've always been good at that. You were able to move quickly. You always were able to do that. And that's something I thought that was always great, because, like you say, moving the Titanic, they hit that. Don't try to move. Don't try to change anything, because you can't.
You can't get it to change.
And I found that's true.
And that's why the stock went from $80 to $2.
Right.
Because you can't move quick enough.
Right.
I mean, Trend originally was remodeling houses in Florida. I mean, and we saw it wasn't working, and I turned it into a brokerage about 3 years ago, that. I just shut it off, said that's not working, we're not profitable, we got to do something different. And in an instant, I switched. We started to hire agents, and we couldn't hire, big name, big box people, so we had to grab new people and train them and coach them and buy leads for them. And like Bob's interview, like take brand new people and get them selling, 10, 15, 20 houses in their first year. They like it.
Yeah, that was a great interview. That was a really great interview.
Yeah.
You learned a lot just by...
But that's what I'm bringing all those years of experience to this. Like, and a lot of brokers are trying to take, 20, 30 grand a year per agent. And I'm not taking anywhere close to that, right? And the reason is I know they can't make it and they'll quit, right? If they need to make 75 to be alive, and I'm taking 25 from them, they're going to quit the business and just find a job, right? So we try to keep them making as much money as they can so they can stick in, so they can stay.
Exactly.
And you try to impart some wisdom, and that's why we got a lot of good people now.
Oh,
It's trying to be a little bit more long-sighted than just short-sighted.
Oh, I can tell.
These big companies come in, they rip the agents apart, take as much money as they can, give them some stupid rah-rah meetings, right? Like we used to do a once-a-week meeting back in the day.
That's another thing I learned in business.
They're stupid.
No.
Don't even need to do it.
No.
We did one at mass consumption, and by the end we just stopped doing it.
That was a good part of mass consumption.
Yep. We didn't, no meetings.
Less meetings.
Emails.
Yeah.
You'd pop in and say, what's up? We'd catch up on something, leave. Every meeting can be an email, right? And you used to say, these meetings are just to show who's the boss.
That and they say, the meeting, we're here to talk about what we ought to be out there doing.
Exactly. Just go do it.
Let's go do it.
And since COVID hit, I did two things that I think worked out really well. One, I downsized our office. We never had a real big office, but I downsized it again to a ridiculously small space because I thought we can't get together anymore. We can't do meetings. So why are we have this office with all these empty desks? So one, we downsized office. Two, I used that money to buy more leads, which led to more closings, which led to agents making more money, right? The essentials, skipped the non-essentials. And three, I realized we don't need meetings ever again. I can do these trainings, email them to people. We never need to do meetings again. I hate meetings.
Yeah.
And that's from your background of this is all BS.
Yeah. Because some people, that's what they think. They're just meetings all day. They don't do anything.
Networking and meetings and...
Yeah, I'm on a conference call.
Conference call.
Okay.
People out there, agents, other people, business people, if you wonder why, I do not. I hate meetings. I hate networking. People are like, oh, you should go to this networking function. I'm like, no thanks.
No, you got it. You got it. You've enhanced it. You got it. You know what to do.
Yeah.
Just get out there and do it.
Get out there, buy the lead, call the lead. Right? That's this business.
Right.
Buy the lead, call the lead. I'll buy them, you guys call them.
Right.
Done. It's simple. Buy the lead, call the lead. It's a really simple business. Other than that, what are we talking about? Well, your website and your app and this voice automated crap. I'm like, you are not going to be able to use an AI bot, a text bot, to sell people homes. That's the newest thing. They want AI bots that are responding to people automatically.
Oh.
You like that? No. Does any consumer like that? I was inquiring on a car. Bots keeps spitting out automatic answers. I'm like, I'm not buying a car here. I'm not doing that. And I think that's what's been lost is the personal touch. I always say you got to press the flesh. You got to be a human being. No gimmicky sales tactics. Just service. And the people that resonate that with me, man, they do really well.
Yeah.
The Jasons, the Monicas, the Bobs, these people that are, ground and pound, get down there, make the call, work the deal, don't gimmick around. I think that's been all the difference in the world.
Oh, for sure.
So your advice going forward, this too shall pass.
Well, I mean, just, keep on changing.
Yeah.
And right now it seems hard, but, okay, when it first started in March, it looked like the end of the world.
Yep.
And now we have ways of dealing with COVID, and people are responding. People are getting more active, and you can see it's going to happen even more.
Yep.
You can see people want to get back out.
Things are opening up.
Yeah, people want to get out, and they're going to.
Yep.
That's what I feel.
And we've talked before. You said, when you were a kid, Vietnam, right? Like we think about COVID and how terrible this is, and my world is like. I come out of college, it's 9/11, and that changed everything. Then it was the mortgage crisis, and that changed everything. And now it's COVID. These are these three big crises in my life, right? The economic crisis. And in your life, you're thinking Vietnam. I mean, how crazy was that, right?
Very bad.
Very bad, right? And so, like you said, this too shall pass.
That's what I mean. Just don't get too tied up, like, oh, we're here and can't get out of it. Well, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. That's what I feel. Is they'll solve this.
Yep.
But there'll be other things.
There'll be new problems to come, right?
But we just But it's okay because they say have faith and just do what you want to do, and learn from your lessons. Like you said, you learn from your lessons.
Yep.
And progress like you do.
Yep.
So.
Well, I will continue to do that.
I know you will.
I was looking forward to having you on the show,
Well,
reminiscing about the good old days, talking about the future. You're the toughest guy I've ever met in my life, and I love you.
Love you.
Thanks for coming in.